Afternoon, everyone. So Paul Heywood. I have the privilege of leading the data and analytics team for Equifax in the UK. And following Cam taking us through some of the foundational pieces around the data and the governance aspect, I will pop back on stage and pick up around Equifax's strategy, the use cases we see for AI, and what we think the next kind of 5 to 7 years build for us. Ahead of that, though, recognizing, not wanting to be big brand push in the room, but if you could just indulge us for 2 minutes before we get started. We've just got a short video which internally we've been calling our AI anthem, but it really just lays out why we think it's such an important topic for us, for the industry going forwards.
If you had the power to see farther, to expand your horizons, the capacity to understand more, what would you explore? What connections would you make? What purpose could it serve? 125 years ago, Equifax was founded with the understanding that everyone should have access to affordable mainstream financial services. Our purpose, to help people live their financial best, guides everything we do. A decade-long exploration of artificial intelligence has enabled us to further this purpose, to expand our insights in a way that helps people shape their financial futures. Our patented approach to explainable AI demonstrates the emphasis we place on the responsible use of artificial intelligence to help more people access financial opportunity. This work is enabled by the Equifax Cloud, a global technology and security infrastructure that is custom-built to manage large volumes of diverse data sets. Central to the Equifax Cloud is our proprietary data fabric, an adaptable structure that unifies over 100 siloed data sources, while also enabling us to manage that data in keeping with regulatory requirements. More data and deeper insights drive better decisions. We are infusing AI into solutions that solve complex problems, helping global organizations identify new opportunities, make more confident decisions, remove friction, speed delivery from months to days, enhance customer experiences, and stop fraud in its tracks. Equifax data scientists around the world are driving AI innovation to give new dimension to data with the needs of people at the center. Our AI advancements are purpose-built to see farther, to create new connections, and help our customers understand more. And we will never stop exploring, because we exist to help people live their financial best. And that purpose drives us forward, into the next frontier, and beyond.
Over the last decade, we have seen an explosion in data, from the rise of the internet through to skyrocketing volumes of data being created through social media, cloud computing, and the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things refers to a vast network of physical objects, such as devices connected to the internet, which transform the way we live our lives day to day, from smart homes through to wearable technologies, such as the smartwatches you might be wearing in the audience. And this helps us to, apologies. And so those IoT devices are projected to double in volume by 2030, and we're expecting to see 90 zettabytes of data being generated. And 90 zettabytes of data, when I started my career over 20 years ago in credit risk modeling, I was working with gigabytes of data. And 1 zettabyte is 1 trillion gigabytes, which is an immense amount of data. And with that, we are driving, apologies. And with that, so with social media, we're seeing in every single minute, we're seeing 680 pieces of content being shared on Instagram. We're seeing 510,000 pieces of comments on Facebook, and we're seeing over 300 hours of videos on YouTube. And 231 million emails are being sent. 90% of the world's data has been created in the past 2 years, and 80% of this is unstructured data. And it's in making meaningful use of this data is where we're seeing value. Within the credit industry, it wouldn't be unexpected to see a step change in the amount of data that we expect to see over the coming years as we expand our potential uses around real-time reporting, the use of alternative data usage, the rise of open banking, the increased expansion of open finance, and greater access to unstructured data. There are a proliferation of data assets being generated, and we now have the tools to be able to optimize the power of that data. Equifax have invested $1.5 billion in global cloud adoption, and we're now being able to benefit from some of those investments that we've made, where we're seeing some of our, from the technology that we're seeing that some of our most resource-intensive processes are completing up to 5 times faster. We're seeing that there are multi-millions of records that are being processed in much faster times than have been before. And the growth in data tools and technological advances has resulted in some major AI advances. Many of you will be familiar with OpenAI's large language model, ChatGPT, which has grabbed the attention of many. Over the last few months, ChatGPT has reached 100 million users, and it took TikTok 9 months and Instagram 2 years to reach the same volume of adoption levels. The simple user experience and the easy conversational interaction makes this very accessible for all. And with that, we're seeing new models emerge, new business use cases emerge from the board level down. Most executives anticipate that AI will fundamentally change the way their organization operates and the way they make decisions, with some compelling statistics on productivity gains and economic value. There are many applications for AI in business, from improving customer experience, margins, and decision intelligence. Within operations, a really good use case is structuring unstructured data. And this involves taking information that's unstructured and loading this into a structured database. And this offers benefits in terms of increasing automation and efficiencies, and also in driving further benefits. From a fraud perspective, we have a long-standing use case, which is using neural networks and machine learning to be able to drive power from patterns in fraud trends that we see through being able to understand and anticipate hidden complex patterns in fraud. And within risk, we're seeing some good examples of using natural language processing to be able to identify patterns and behaviors in payment profiles, using a multi-data modeling approach to be able to identify and develop models on different sources of data which have differing levels of data availability. And this means that using those models, And using those differing availability of data provides us with the opportunity to be able to allow for and control for some of the availability of data. And we've developed a number of patented explainable AI techniques that are monotonically constrained and that support explainability. And we're seeing opportunities to leverage unstructured data within our model development processes by using some of the data that we see in customer management, voice data, call notes, to be able to take that data and develop models that can identify early warning triggers for arrears. And we're testing within our cloud-based analytics environment Google's generative AI coding assistant, which is there to help our analysts and for us to understand what benefits that can provide. And at Equifax, we have been driving responsible AI innovation for over a decade, with over 90 patents supporting our approach to AI. And underpinning this is responsible governance. There exists a sentiment of concern around the use of AI, with 59% of Brits reporting some level of concern around this. And many governments around the world are moving towards regulating AI. There are a number of regulations that are being released. In the UK, the government have issued a pro-innovation approach to AI, which is a framework, principles-based framework that supports and promotes innovation whilst ensuring the safety and ethical use of AI. The EU have passed the Artificial Intelligence Act, which was passed through Parliament, and this is the world's first legal framework to regulate AI. Within the US, they have drafted the AI Bill of Rights, and within Australia, there are 8 AI principles which are moving towards regulation with consultation underway. So how are Equifax thinking about this? Majestic is Equifax's responsible AI framework, and it's aligned to industry and government. It has been developed in conjunction with reviewing government guidance, academic literature on AI, and also reviewing industry standards and credit industry best practices. This is underpinned by 8 core principles, and we are using this to drive how we think about our innovation today and how we think about developing models using AI in credit risk decisioning. With that, I will hand across to Paul, who will talk more about how we're thinking about credit risk decisioning. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Cam. Wasn't sure I was going to make that step. So Cam speaks about all the data explosion, the muscle that's coming from some of the compute behind that. But if we start to pivot it towards what are we doing and what does it mean in risk? So I think a lot of that data has turned into point solutions and insights. So there is a host of scores, attributes, insights, verification tools. And the way I think about it is that those tools are being applied to varying business challenges. And sometimes they're a really good fit and sometimes less so. So if you think about the credit risk persona, you've almost got your credit risk analyst on the ground floor of your building, and they come in on a Monday, and there's the big sweet shop of tools. And the topic of the day for Monday is accept rates, driving the business targets in terms of growth. So I've got to use this kind of scoring approach to make sure we're delivering on our business objectives. And then by Tuesday, maybe it's is flick to bad debt provisioning. Still application scores before customer management comes in and takes that job. And so I'm now looking to say, how does it help me in that space? Wednesday, the agenda might be regulation, consumer outcomes, affordability, vulnerability. And the whole time we're trying to maximize the value that we get out of all of these assets. And that's before actually getting some of the areas where perhaps the solutions are even tougher to fit. Traditional data maybe not fitting the use case, harder to bring differentiated data in, data that's not structured in the same way. So you think about things like, maybe you've got a broker channel and the Thursday topic is conversion. Difficult. You don't know what APRs the consumer's taking elsewhere. You've got a gap in knowledge on API. You don't know what's being presented through the panel. It could be salary, still tough. Many of us in this room will have sort of faced the affordability challenges around committed and disposable, or maybe something like siblings, kind of dependents. There's not a lot of commercially available data available on under 18. So you've got this shifting move of business requirements, and the analyst is almost sat in between going, I've got all this, and I'm going to give you an answer for that. And then meanwhile, on the second floor, somebody with a totally different set of objectives. They might be leveraging some of the same tools. It wouldn't be the first time I've heard somebody in fraud say the way in which data is created for credit risk application doesn't really fit with what I'm trying to do. The idea that it's less real time or near real time, the concept that it's matched. Paul Heywood won the High Street 1976. That's not quite what I want if I'm in network fraud and Alias and Associates. So you've got these different applications all being looked at in the same guise. And the way that we think about the concept of decision intelligence is really, taking us to that question of what if you could take AI and embed it to optimize decisions throughout the life cycle. So if we build from there, think about it. I'll take a step back, not by show of hands, but there'll be a lot of people in the room who have had exposure to scorecards, either build them or reviewed them or signed them off. Scorecards doesn't have to be scorecards, could be segmentation, could be decision tree type stuff. And then if you ask yourself, well, how are they built? How are they constructed against a given use case typically? They're modeling one thing, a debt-to-income ratio, a default, a no intention to pay. How are they constructed? Well, I can share that a lot of the CRA solutions in that space might have 6, 8, 10 or more submodels. And that'll be the same on sort of the FS client side as well. And if you think about those submodels, well, how are they created? You hear terms like thin file, thick file, clean, dirty, 2024, dirty, I'm not sure. DROG maybe is the better term. And yes, some of those are statistical, but some of them are also intuitive, and industry's been talking about 2 or 3 live products for an active file for years and years now. And so what we do is we then go and try and get further value out of them. Okay, so I've got a score. Maybe it's not optimally built, but it's damn good. The industry's been working for 30 years on it. It's not uncommon, 2024, remember. I might cross-tab some scores. I might do an application score down the left and a indebtedness score across the right, across the top. So I'm getting really sophisticated now. And then I'm going to do some swap sets. I've got a 2% bad rate here, a 1% here. I'm going to switch them out. Well, really, the concept here is to put a significant step change in that as a result of AI. Now, AI has the benefit to drive accuracy. Lots of talk around it. How much better is it than old world? It does deliver enhanced predictive power. It needs some tweaking, some tuning. You've got to understand how to parameterize it, constrain it. It's got considerations for your model risk management. We're going to have to look at stability a lot more closely. But that benefit's there. It's got efficiency. You can build quicker. 8 models, 8 lots of validation, calibrate them together, single score at the top, calibrate that, UAT. Actually, AI gives you a much more seamless route to getting product into the ecosystem. And then that gives that third benefit, which is adaptability is probably the word, in that I can refresh them quicker, I can understand changes in trends that are happening in the market at any one time. So this is, introducing, our strategy is firmly behind testing and proving out. We're not decomming all old world, that's not happening straight away, but there are areas that we think module by module, AI coming together, and I'll talk a little bit more about the mechanics of that in a moment, coming together to drive a far better optimization that comes out the back end. And it's not new. Cam mentioned 90 patents, 70 of those are approved in this space around transparency and some of those areas. But it's firmly anchoring the Equifax strategy at the moment. So if we believe that AI could drive value across all of these various decisions that we're making, across all the floors in our building, that sort of pivots to what does it look like? How do you do it? And the approach that we have is at each component of the life cycle, there is an ability to test and use AI, whether it's ID, risk, customer management, collections, doesn't matter where. And if you start with the data layer, we need to move into multi-data, which is the idea that I don't have a data set where I create counts and mins and maximums, number of account type X, max BAL last 12 months, min time 2. You're using latent space to understand trends and correlations across data assets that aren't typically visible. And that's where tools like machine learning come into play. Because of that ability to process millions more permutations, combinations, against tens of millions or hundreds of millions more records, all with that massive compute, you've got a component where you can drive more value from the data to save the analyst who's all the way down here cross-tabbing and going, was that subpopulation of thin file optimal for me? And then if you can feed that into your valuation layer, so this is, now I've understood all of this, where's the value against the given use case that I'm trying to go after, and optimize value through the data for the specification that's been input. And then the kind of optimization, that's your persona integration. So I, as a person, want to be able to put a set of optimization criteria. I want to maximize lending whilst retaining a 3% bad rate over an 18-month outcome, feeding that through that journey rather than a sort of stepwise approach through attributes and a test and learn view in kind of segmentation models about where my distributions are, is firmly in the sweet spot of AI. I think the UK as an industry will have considerations about where it wants to deploy this first, where it feels are better test scenarios. But we are looking to develop the concepts that was on the previous slide labeled lending brain. I'm not sure it's the one we'll go to market with. But decision intelligence through AI-sourced solutions optimized through those sort of two central boxes. And if you think about the last 30 years in innovation, huge innovation, digital, journeys, CX, all of that sort of thing have been happening. But I think the next 5, 7, maybe 10 are really going to be pivotal in terms of the speed at which this comes through. If anybody's read about kind of innovation waves, they get quicker and quicker, start off with cotton and go all the way right. I think this next one is moving at such a pace that this will be a real factor for our industry going forwards. And we're Equifax all in. We're Equifax #.ai. We're doing it in a responsible way, as Cam mentioned in the governance area, but we're very keen to be driving the right use cases at the front foot and not being afraid. AI is coming. It's here. I think we need to be controlled and governed in the way we use it. But that ecosystem of AI solutions is something that we're very excited about. And then if you could just bear with me for a tenuous kind of sign-off. I think If I think about the last 30 years, you know, Marty McFly went from 1985 to 1955, and the brightest minds in cinema sort of looked and went, and what they came up with in terms of comparison was a little dull. There was electric guitar versus classic guitar. There was colour TVs versus black and white. A lot of focus on the soda cans. If Marty McFly were with us today and then going forward the next 10 years, I think the innovations that come out of it would be far more impressive. And as he said in the movie, your kids are going to love it. Thank you all.